What's up guys, Mixed by Jocelyn here, back with another video of Mixed Up, and today we're going to be talking about the best de-esser that isn't a de-esser on the market, Splits S by ApulSoft. Let's go. Boom! Okay guys, cool. So as you heard in the intro, we're going to be talking about de-essers today, and in particular a plugin called Splits S, which claims to not be a de-esser, and that's for one reason only, because most de-essers on the market, as you know, work via dynamic processing, where basically it's a really tight band compressor that takes the sibilance and squashes it down using compression, which, you know, has its use forms. It's very good, but you know, it has a lot of downfalls in terms of like changing the S. It changes the sound of your recording, and it can be very difficult sometimes to get them right. And a lot of times I hear, you know, arguably too much use of the de-esser, that overcompressing, which is destroying that top end of the vocal. And it can be quite difficult, as I said, to balance it in to get it sound nice and luscious and right. But as we all know, S's can be very problematic, or sibilants in general can be very problematic in recordings, especially with like modern microphones that are very bright, very shiny. Maybe some of the converters nowadays aren't as good as they used to be, or you know, people are spending less money on the converter, should I say, and you know, it's creating this harshness in a lot of the recordings when it comes to the S's, and they're standing out. And once we've affected our vocals and brought them up and made them sound luscious and lovely, those S's can really pop through too much and be upsetting to the ear. So we as engineers and producers and everyone in this mixed community do our best to tame those S's via things like de-essers. But another option that people do use, and I personally think is a much more effective way of de-essing, and I use a combination of both these techniques, is to physically go in and grab that sibilance and lower the gain of it. I'm controlling it via gain, not compression, which gives me a lot more control, and it doesn't affect the vocal by putting a dynamic processor on top of it, or in that de-essing section or the sibilance section. What S-Split is doing, hence why it's claiming to not be a de-esser, is it's taking that technique and doing it via a plugin. So it's actually taking those sibilants and lowering them via gain and giving you the control of the balance, rather than actually putting a dynamic compressor processor on top to squash it down. So it's taking a technique that I use and a lot of engineers use, and removing a lot of the time involved, because by physically going through the record and having to cut out all of these sibilants takes up a lot of time. This is basically throwing a plugin on top as creating a similar process, but without having to obviously spend all the time and finding it. So when this popped up for me and I heard about it, I was like, well, that sounds like something I want to try out. It's a technique that I use already, and if it's going to save me time when it comes to mixing, who am I to turn it down? So I've told you a little bit about how the plugin works and the concept behind it and why it isn't a de-esser, but it is de-essing. But enough of that, let's actually dive into it. Jump on the computer, load up a project, and see how it sounds, which is the most important thing. Okay guys, so let's load up the plugin and see what it's doing. I've got a tune loaded up here called Green Light by DJKY's Buju Banton and Black Sheriff. It's out. I'll have it linked below so you guys can go and check it out. I think I will do like a full mix breakdown, or even start the mix again from scratch and make a video on that. So keep an eye out on the channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. Let's break down what this plugin's doing and like its features. So as you can see here, it's a pretty simple looking interface, which is nice, and I think is important for a de-esser. When you're trying to do something simple, you want it to come across as simple. It does have these nice features where it will break down exactly what this function is doing and gives you a little note on it as well, which is nice, especially when it comes to explaining things. This first section here, this is sort of like what the signal gets run through and you can basically set whether or not it's a dark or a bright recording. This might be, you know, whether it's been recorded on a darker mic, or the vocalist has a darker tone to his or she's vocal in terms of like frequency, for instance, or if it's like a bit more of a bright, sensitive, high-end mic, you might want to put it more up here, and that's going to basically help adjust the plugin, make the decisions in terms of like where the S's are and how much and how it should be removing them. It then goes down even further into this drop down section here where you have quiet and loud, which is essentially acting like a threshold. So how loud the S's are or how quietly they are, you will set this so it catches those S's in the right way. And then the tone, I guess it's sort of like roughly where the band is sort of like sitting on the recording and where the frequency is that the S's and the problem sibilances are laying, so you can sort of like adjust the tone and the noise to where it needs to be in terms of like, you know, finding that right band. From what I can see here, I might be wrong, let me know in the comments. So essentially you use this fader to match like roughly where the sibilances are lying for the particular recording. And then the crossfade is where, you know, how much crossfade you're getting between the untouched signal and then the pitched sibilant signal that is picking up. And that's important because obviously, you know, it's about, you don't want to be messing around with all of those sounds and all of that frequency span. You just want to be looking at like those pitched sibilant frequencies that are causing the issues in the recording that we want to tame. Okay, and then the window is basically the time in which the event of the S is taking place, and you can lower it or shorten it so you're not getting sort of like a delay or latency issues between the two channels, because essentially as it says in the title, this is splitting the signal and we're going to be lowering those S's, so there will be some like latency as it does that in real time. So I guess, you know, if your computer can handle it, you can like really make this very short, or if your computer's maybe struggling, you might want to like keep this at a higher rate, making sure that you're getting the right sound. So plenty of adjustment to get this perfect for your particular recording, and you do want to be, you know, looking into I would suggest you look into these sections, you know, for every recording that you're using this plugin on, just to dial it in and make it like as spot on and as correct as possible, because the idea here is that we're trying to, as I said, lower the S's, not dynamically compress the S's, and gaining more control over that, so we're not like ruining the recording, which can happen when you're using more traditional de-essers. There's so many on the market, but there's only a handful that I would say, you know, are any good. Hence why most of the time I'm doing it the traditional way, by actually like physically gain staging this stuff. Let's just dive into this and let's see what it's doing on this vocal. So we'll play it without.
We come through now, what them gonna do, them a worry about we know worry about you, with you and your crew and all we been through, you know, no respect for you, we know no respect for you, Jamaica.
So as you can hear, there's quite a lot of S's happening in there. It's quite an aggressive vocal. It's definitely a lower tone. So let's turn it on and let's make some adjustments and see if we can get like a nice sounding de-esser happening from it whilst playing around with some of these settings.
We come through now, what them gonna do, them a worry about we know worry about you, with you and your crew and all.
So as you can see, it's sort of like highlighting the S's there, this without having any reduction, because we've not added any reduction, more than 0.5. Let's just set that to 0. And you know, this is where, you know, we would basically dial in these sections to make sure, you know, with our ear and then visually, it's grabbing the right sounds and grabbing the right sibilants, and then we can start to duck.
We come through now, what them gonna do, them a worry about we know worry about you, with you and your crew and all we been through, you know no respect for you, we know no respect for you, Jamaican man are able, hear me, do just what you gotta do, move out the way before we get messy, not touch the road without split and Wessie, man bad from Abuja to Manchester City, catch up with the sheriff in a London shitty. Threats are simple, one look them tremble. Some wife you know outlaws don't play. Step on them with nothing but shell black. Sheriff and one dog.
Okay, and then let's bring this down and start getting it, reducing the sibilants.
We come through now, what them gonna do them.
Now you can see here, it's sort of, if we make this larger, you can see where it's grabbing those S's and then removing them by the light grey space indicated on the graph.
We come through now, what them gonna do, them a worry about we know worry about you, with you and your crew and all we been through, you know no respect for you, we know no respect for you, Jamaican man are able, hear me, do just what you gotta do, move out the way before we get messy, not touch the road without split and Wessie, man bad from Abuja to Manchester City, catch up with the sheriff in a London shitty. Threats are simple, one look them tremble.
It's starting to get like a little bit of a a lispy tone out of it. Let's see if we can sort of fix that by these adjustments.
We come through now, what them gonna do? Them a worry about we no worry about you. With you and your crew and all we been through. You know no respect for we no respect for you. Jamaican man are able, hear me? Do just what you gotta do. Move out the way before we get messy. Now touch the road without spit and Wessie, man.
So to me right there, that's sounding great. Like that's highlighting all of those sibilant S's that could be causing me an issue and ducking them in a reasonable amount. Maybe we're being a bit extreme with it. Have to listen to the song in context for it to like really, to be able to really understand it.
We come through now, what them gonna do? Them a worry about we no worry about you. With you and your crew and all we been through. You know no respect for we no respect for you. Jamaican man are able, hear me? Do just what you gotta do. Move out the way before we get messy. Now touch the road without spit and Wessie. Man back from Abuja to Manchester City. Catch up with the sheriff in a London city. Threats are simple, one look them tremble. Some wife know outlaws don't play.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think that sounds great. I really, really like that. It seems to be doing the job. I need to do a bit more testing and really like home in and figure out what these dials are all doing. But it's very self-explanatory. As I said, he has these notes on there, but just to really understand like how to get the best out of the plugin. But it's giving me all the parameters that I would want, and the fact that it is de-essing a vocal without using compression and doing it in a way that I would personally like to see it done and making my life a lot easier. I very, very much am enjoying this plugin. I think it's great and it definitely has a brilliant place. And from what I can see on the site as well, it's like pretty reasonably priced as well. So definitely worth checking out. A good alternative to a de-esser, maybe using this as in combination with another de-esser, just very subtly, both using them and finding the balance. Could be very, very effective. I'm definitely going to be using this a lot more in my other mixes, but I wanted to come on here today, dive into it for you, break it all a bit down and show you guys and share it with you because I believe this is a really cool tool. You know, it's a type of plugin that I personally haven't come across before, taking de-essing in a slightly different way and a different approach to it. So shout out to ApulSoft. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Really, really enjoying it. I hope you guys have understood a little bit more about the plugin from this breakdown and exactly how you can use it in your own mixes. But yeah, shout out again, brilliant plugin. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have any questions on this, please leave them in the comments below. As I dive into it more, I'll be happy to help answer any questions. Or check out ApulSoft on their Instagram. They're pretty cool in the DMs. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions. And yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. We're releasing videos like this weekly. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Safe. Boom.